There are often many things said about the Wheel of Time series, a couple of them being, it's awesome, it's 14 books long, it has characters that feel like real people.
It's a slog.
Today, I'm going to examine why the Slog is a piece of Wheel of Time history and not a collection of books in the middle of the series, so stick around. This video also has a companion article over on thegreatblight.com, so go over there and check that out. So first, a little background about the publication history of the Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time was initially released in January of 1990 with The Eye of the World. This then set off the saga that we all know and love. From there, Jordan published the sequel, The Great Hunt, within the same year, 10 months later in 1990. The next book, The Dragon Reborn, was released the following year, only 11 months later in 1991. Jordan maintained this near yearly release schedule up until 1996. From this point, he began releasing the new books every 2 years, which is still a pretty strong pace for an author writing this scale of a series. However, during this time frame, many fans feel that Jordan began to intentionally slow the pace down and expand the story out past the confines of our main characters we've been following up to this point. Back during this time, fans were unsure of how many books the series would be, and as they saw the totals climbing higher and higher and higher, some even wondered if it would ever finish. So, what is the Slog? The Slog is often said to be the books released between 1996 and 2003, which roughly corresponds to A Crown of Swords extending out to Crossroads of Twilight. Some fans will include Lord of Chaos in this, as they feel that the story really begins to slow down there. However, others will say that it's not part of the Slog. The fans who argue that Lord of Chaos is part of the Slog often contend that the book slows down and that it's forgiven due to its epic ending that many fans know and love. For my part, I can see both sides of this argument. Lord of Chaos is quite slow in comparison to books like The Shadow Rising or The Fires of Heaven. However, the ending does kind of make up for the slowness of that book. So, I'm 50-50 on it. Daniel Green also discusses this in a video he released talking about the bad aspects of the Wheel of Time, which you can find over here. I don't 100% agree with Daniel, nor the community as a whole, about the fact that the Slog is a certain subset of books. Instead, I personally believe that the Slog was a period of time in the history of the publication of the series. My reasoning for this is that during publication, fans were often unsure of where the story was going. They felt that book to book, there wasn't a lot of progress being made. Characters were kind of reneging on their growth they've had previously, all in favor of expanding the story and extrapolating, or producing more books so RJ can make more money. While I don't deny that there may be some valid criticisms here about RJ's scope and scale of the story, we also can't forget the fact that these books are the reasons we have such a large world of the Wheel of Time. For example, we get more inner workings of the White Tower from A Crown of Swords through Crossroads of Twilight than almost any other books previously. We really get to see how fully fledged Aes Sedai operate and move throughout the tower. So let's examine how many books RJ published during the time period that was the Slog. I really think Wheel of Time fans are a little bit spoiled with RJ's initial very fast pace of publication, because between 1996 and 2005, Robert Jordan published 6 works. That's right, not 1, not 2, but 6. 6 books. That's more than some authors still writing series today have published in 10 years. 6 books within a 9-year time frame is an impressive feat for any author, unless you hold every author to the standard of Brando Sando, the new hero of the fantasy genre. Now, the reason that this publication period from 1996 until Knife of Dreams came out in 2005 was just so difficult for fans was because of the scope and scale of the expansion that RJ underwent here. Hello, kitty. Are you enjoying the window? What this did was it took a lot of the focus off of the main characters we've been following and instead began dividing the storylines up in between their point of views with other new major side characters who had relevant plots but were not necessarily the main focus of the story. Some of these side stories would be rather difficult to follow, such as much of anything dealing with the Aes Sedai, given the amount of new Aes Sedai that we're introduced to whose name begin with the letter S. You can find that in a table here. There's also another factor in these books that contributed during the time of their publication to feeling quite slow, and that was RJ's tendency to be quite repetitive. Now, I understand why he did this from a functional standpoint. He's releasing a book now every 2 years, and he's not expecting every fan to go back and reread the entirety of the series, or even maybe the last book before the new one comes out. So he's using his repetition to remind everyone of how things work and what's happening and where characters are. It can get quite frustrating. And then on top of that, he begins to repeat numerous descriptions of dresses, clothing, buildings, so on and so forth, and gets a little lost in his descriptive language. However, there's another aspect of this that I think fans do not talk about all that much, and that is that our point of view characters have expanded their inner dialogues. It's expanded to the point so much that it feels almost stream of consciousness, as if you were reading Ulysses by James Joyce. We'll often find characters nearly narrating us what's happening to them on the page. We know what they're doing, but they're just describing what they're doing in their head. There are many examples of this, specifically Perrin walking through camp, spotting someone he wants to go talk to, thinking about what they're doing as he approaches, and then describing everything he passes along the way. It gets quite repetitive and redundant, and to be honest, a little boring. So, with all of this actually present in the books, why do I believe that the term the Slog does not truly apply anymore to the Wheel of Time? Well, for starters, the series is finished. We have the ending in place now. The series is 14 books plus the prequel. We do not have to wait or wonder when it's going to be finished, which was a contributing factor to the feeling of the Slog because people were not sure when the ending was going to happen. However, now that the series is done, the Slog no longer represents this existential dread of, are we going to make it to the end, but now instead represents this great, rich world building that Robert Jordan left for us. Honestly, with the binge culture of the modern day and having all of the books finished, readers should be able to power through those books with no problem, without having to wait on the ending to be published or wait for the next book in the series to come out, where there are years in between where you're just waiting and possibly rereading the series. There should be no feeling of the Slog. Because we can now experience the catharsis of having the ending, we can appreciate the books for what they truly are, a part of a series we all know and love. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this quick video about why I believe the Slog is overblown and is honestly a place in the history of the series. Some point in time that a certain subset of fans had to live through, and as we move further and further away, the Slog also stays behind. In fact, after the show comes out, we may reach the point where there are more fans who've read the series after it's published than during its publication. At which point, claims of a Slog may no longer be valid, as they may not understand why it was called a Slog in the first place. So go ahead, don't forget to like the video, dislike it if you didn't, subscribe, hit the little bell icon for more Wheel of Time content from me, and I will see you next time. Solita, Samalin, Shana, Serene, Sayonid, Sain, Samitsu, Saritha, Saren, Soroya, Sidor, Suana, Sylviana, Shevin, Shushail,